All right, today we are diving into a huge, and let's be honest, a pretty wild question. In a world that's gone all in on digital, could the real key to keeping our most important information safe actually be analog? Yeah, we're going to explore why the future of data security might just look a whole lot like the past.
So let's just start with a number that should make you sit up and pay attention. 80 to 98%. Now what is that? Well, according to a really detailed risk analysis, that's how much money you could save by using microfilm for long-term storage instead of digital. That's over 50 years once you start adding up all the risks. I know, it sounds impossible, right? So how on earth do we get to a number that big? Let's unpack it.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Every single day we're hearing about new cyber attacks, new global conflicts, new weak spots in the system. Our whole world runs on data. But we almost never stop and ask the really basic question. When everything is connected, what happens when those connections turn against us? Where do you put the stuff you absolutely, positively cannot afford to lose?
To figure that out, we've got to start by looking at the hidden dangers of our go-to solution. I mean, we all think about our monthly bill for cloud storage, sure, but the real cost and the real vulnerability of going all in on digital, it runs much, much deeper than that.
You see, the problem isn't just one single thing. It's what the source material for this explainer calls a perfect storm. And it's this convergence of three really powerful and fast-growing forces that are totally changing the economics for anyone who needs to keep data safe for the long haul.
So here they are, the three horsemen of digital risk, if you will. You've got this relentless cybersecurity arms race. Then there's the never-ending migration treadmill. And finally, a new wave of regulations that come with a hefty price tag. Let's kick things off with that arms race.
First up, the arms race. And look, this isn't some abstract idea. Just think about the SolarWinds hack. A single supply chain attack managed to get deep inside 9 U.S. federal agencies, compromising their records. Or even more dramatically, look at Ukraine. They had to pull off a frantic emergency migration of their critical government data to cloud servers just 5 days before the invasion. This tells you everything. Digital archives aren't just filing cabinets anymore. They're on the front lines of modern warfare.
Okay, the second force is what's called the migration treadmill. And this right here is one of those hidden costs that is just astronomical. We tend to think of digital stuff as being permanent, but it's not. The file formats, the software, the hardware we use, they have an average lifespan of only about 8 years before they're at risk of becoming totally obsolete. This means saving data isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a constant, expensive, and frankly, exhausting cycle.
And just look at what this treadmill looks like over a 50-year period. You're not paying to store your data once. You are paying for at least 6 complete, incredibly complex, and super expensive migrations. Each and every one of those requires new software, a ton of quality checks, and just an immense amount of work to make sure nothing gets lost or scrambled in the process. It's a huge recurring cost that almost never gets talked about up front. And the third force? The regulatory reckoning. As governments finally wake up to how vulnerable our digital world is, they're passing a flood of new laws. In the EU, you've got regulations like NIS2 and DORA that demand constant security monitoring and testing. Court rulings like Schrems II are making it a legal nightmare to store data across borders. And here in the US, NIST is saying, hey, you need to upgrade to quantum-resistant cryptography. Now, all these rules are necessary, but they add massive operational costs. Costs that, just don't exist for offline analog storage.
Okay, so that's the perfect storm of digital risk. It's a lot. But now let's pivot and talk about the solution. And it comes from a place you probably weren't expecting. We're going to look at what the source calls the air-gapped advantage. And it's all about reframing a really old technology as the perfect defense against these very modern threats. I mean, the contrast here could not be more stark. On one side, you have digital fragility. It's wide open to basically everything we've been talking about. Ransomware, supply chain hacks, even physical threats like an EMP blast. But then, you look at microfilm. It's immune. You cannot hold a piece of film for ransom. A virus can't infect it. An EMP won't wipe it. It has a fundamental built-in security that digital systems, just by their connected nature, can never truly have.
And the key idea here is something called an air gap. In the world of cybersecurity, an air gap is the gold standard. It means the system is physically, totally, 100% disconnected from any network. So that leads to a really powerful realization. Microfilm isn't just like an air gap, it is the ultimate physical air gap. It is, quite literally, unhackable. And then there's the lifespan. Remember that 8-year digital migration cycle we just talked about? Well, properly stored microfilm has a proven stable lifespan of 500 years. And that's not some guess or a projection. It's a tested, established scientific fact. It completely vaporizes the whole migration treadmill problem. You make it once, and it's safe and readable for centuries.
So, what does this all mean for the bottom line? Let's follow the money. We've talked about all the risks and the incredible longevity, but how does this all translate into actual dollars and cents over the long run? Because this is where the numbers get really, really interesting.
Right here is where the argument hits home. This is a risk-adjusted analysis, looking at the total cost to own 1 terabyte of data over 50 years. For a pure digital strategy, especially in a high-risk environment, you could be looking at spending up to $35,000. Now, compare that to a strategy that uses microfilm as the primary archive, as low as $1,500, maybe $3,000 on the high end. That's more than a 10-to-1 difference in cost. It's just staggering. And when you see it as a bar chart, wow, the difference is it's huge. In that high-risk scenario, the cost of a digital-only approach completely dwarfs the microfilm alternative. We are not talking about a small marginal gain here. This is a fundamental shift in how we should think about long-term value and cost. So you might be asking, okay, where's the tipping point? Well, the analysis shows that microfilm becomes the more cost-effective choice for any data that you need to keep for more than 15 years. Just think about that for a second. That covers almost all critical government records, long-term financial data, vital scientific research, and pretty much all of our cultural archives. Now, does this mean we should all just throw out our hard drives and go back to the 1950s? Of course not. The smartest way forward isn't an either-or choice. It's a both-and solution. It's a future-proof hybrid strategy that actually gives us the best of both worlds. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some wacky fringe idea. Just look at the kinds of organizations already using this hybrid approach. We're talking about the U.S. National Archives, the U.K. Authority in charge of nuclear cleanup records, the entire Brazilian federal government, the Israeli courts, and national archives all across Europe, in places like Germany, Sweden, and Norway. These are not organizations that mess around when it comes to information security.
So it all boils down to one very clear, very actionable strategy, a 2-tier hybrid architecture. It's simple, really. You use digital for what it's amazing at, quick, convenient, day-to-day access. But for that master copy, for the permanent record, for your ultimate insurance policy, you use microfilm for its unmatched security, stability, and longevity.
In the end, this whole explainer really comes down to this one powerful idea. In an age filled with digital uncertainty, making sure we even have a future might just depend on how well we secure our past. And the smartest way to do that, it seems, is by looking back to a proven technology so that we can all move forward with confidence. Thanks for watching.